So this is an ethnic map of Iran. Okay? Now, certain things that you will see is how divided the country is. Yeah, the Persians are in the center, but people you want to watch are the Kurds. Okay, the Kurds. And the Azeris. And the Balochs. Okay? These are the three major problem areas for Iran, and it's always been the case. Remember, the Persians are in the middle. So the Balochs are, first of all, Sunni Muslims. And as we discussed last class, the Sunnis and the Shias have never really gotten along well together. They have different, they're the same religion, Islam, but they have different belief systems. That's led to a lot of conflicts in the past. It's almost like the Catholics and the Protestants, okay? And so the Balochs have been trying to rebel against Iranians for a long time. I guarantee you that there are already Israeli and American special forces embedded in this area, okay? The reason why is that they want to encourage as much civil conflict as possible, but they also want to prepare the possibility for a ground invasion of America, okay? So they would need a forward operating base. And this area could be a very good place for a beginning of a land invasion. Then you over here, you have the Kurds. Okay? The Kurds are another minority that seeks national sovereignty. And right now what's happening is that the Americans and Israelis are bombing this area heavily. And they're targeting police stations. Why? Because they're trying to reduce and eliminate opposition so that they can arm the Kurds and have them come into this area and threaten Iran. What's also happening is that in Iraq, there are these Sunni groups, okay, that the Americans are basically bribing and arming, and they're basically fanatics, okay? They're ISIS. And what the Americans want to do is send them into Iran to cause as much problems as possible. Okay? Then you over here, you have Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, it is an independent country. What's really odd is that the majority of ethnic Azeris are actually in Iran. 60% are in the country, 40% are in the country of Azerbaijan. Which means that from the perspective of the Azerbaijani people, this war could be an opportunity to reunite the people, okay, and create a greater Azerbaijan. So these are the three problem areas that you have to watch as this war develops over the next few weeks, over the next few months, okay? So we already know what the American strategy will be because we've seen it in Libya, in Syria before. Okay, so what is the strategy? Right. So again, the strategy is to both attack without, okay, from outside, and inside as well. So what you're going to do is this. You're going to arm these people, embed special forces into these insurgent groups to lead them and provide air cover so they have a clear path into Iran and are able to eliminate opposition, okay? All right? So now you're attacking from without. Attacking from within means to cause as much pain and suffering in the interior of Iran as possible. All right? And how do you do that? Well, you do that through decapitation. Okay, let's go over the strategies. Okay, decapitation. Okay. And what you're doing is you're removing the elite. Okay, or what we call command and control. Okay, you're basically eliminating the capacity of Iran to govern itself, to have a leadership, to have an elite. All right, command and control. Okay, so that's the first strategy. Second strategy is area bombardment, okay, aerial supremacy. So again, America has the most advanced airplanes in the world. And the way that it's using its airplanes is to destroy as much military installations as possible, but it's also engaging in acts of sabotage, okay? So what they're doing is they're carpet bombing. Okay, so they're carpet bombing Tehran, okay? They're doing soft targeting. Soft targeting. Soft targeting means that instead of attacking military installations, you attack hospitals. Why? Because you're degrading the capacities, you're degrading the state's capacity to rejuvenate itself, to be resilient, okay? The last thing is something called double tap. Double tap is this, okay? And it's really illegal or against international law. What you do is this. You attack a place, right? You kill some people, and then people try to come and help the people who are injured. And it could be like doctors, it could be emergency personnel, it could be relatives, right? And then you strike again to create as many civilian casualties as possible, right? And the entire idea is to create as much fear and anxiety in people as possible so that they lose the capacity to resist, right? And the last thing you do, and the last thing, of course, is to arm and bribe insurgents. Okay, so these are the three main pillars of the American strategy. And you will see this over the next few weeks. The problem with this is that when you do these three things, you're not actually hurting the Iranians, you're actually helping them. Because remember, the law of asymmetry states that whichever group is able to create energy, openness, and cohesion will win. And guess what, guys? This American strategy is going to create a more energetic, more open, and more cohesive Persian society. All right, let me show you how. All right, decapitation. We just said that one major problem for America is elite overproduction, right? Well, with decapitation, what you're doing is you're solving this problem for the Iranians, right? Before, the huge problem for the Iranians were you have too many leaders and they all have their own stupid opinion and they all want to lead this war, right? But by killing so many leaders, you allow for more mobility, for more meritocracy, right? You're solving the problem of elite overproduction for the Iranians. That's a huge, huge bonus, guys, okay? So the leadership will become much more lean, much more mean, much more determined, and much more strategic, okay? That's number one. Number two, air supremacy. Well, when you do this to people, when you carpet bomb Tehran, you're creating a more cohesive society. Why? Because the major conflict in Iran for many decades was the conflict between the urban areas and the rural areas. The rural areas were very religious, very poor, very backward. And the urban areas were educated, secular, and progressive. Okay? And so there's this huge conflict that led to a lot of riots, a lot of protests in Iran. But when you carpet bomb the cities, which are the main source of support for progressive Western policies, you make them united with the rural areas, okay? Does that make sense? The Iranian people no longer see each other as enemies, they see the Americans, the Israelis, as enemies. You create a much more cohesive society, who are willing to fight together. And that's a problem, okay? All right, the last thing. Yes, you are arming the insurgents, the Balochs, the Kurds, the Azeris. Okay, that's fine. The problem with this is that you are now activating, galvanizing Persian nationalism. Right? For the longest time, the Persian national identity was suppressed by the theocracy, because they want to create a more, they want to create a grand religion that unites all ethnicities. When you turn the other minorities against the Iranians, then the Persian people have to come together and remember their history, celebrate their identity. And this is the key, okay? Once the Persian people are able to activate their long-lost memories, go back in the past and remember their greatness, they come together as an energetic, open, and cohesive society, okay? So yes, the Americans have this strategy that worked in Libya and Syria and other places, but it's not going to work in Iran. In fact, it's going to do the opposite in Iran. Okay? And then you're like, well, why don't the Americans not do this? And I already told you, because it's an empire, okay? It doesn't care about Iran, it cares about itself. And so it's sort of stuck with this policy because remember, it's trying to win this war as quickly as possible because it doesn't have the manufacturing capacity to fight this war for a long time. It's trying to reduce as many casualties among its soldiers as possible because the Americans don't have the political will to fight this war. America's trying to win this war cheaply and fast. And if it doesn't, then America's in a lot of trouble. Okay, does that make sense, guys?